So, welcome to our second talk in this series of 6 talks about shifting your reality. And Altazar and I are talking about empowerment this video. And yeah, let's start with the question: what is empowerment?
Well, I always think this is a very interesting question because we are empowered already, but we don't know it. One of the ways I see that is, it actually follows on very well, quite logically, actually, from what we spoke about in our first meeting. That's a little joke because Robert and I just had a little question about logic, and what my response was, what does logic have to do with anything? But anyway, this is I digress. What we are in the process of is awakening, and when we do that, it's a question of making a decision to explore our reality, explore our consciousness, explore what it means to be human in the existence that we're in, and more than the physical body that we're experiencing. Now, in that process, we make a decision. And so what that tells us is we are at a place of choice. We can choose not to explore. We can choose to say no to our spiritual process. We can choose. That means we are empowered, but nobody realizes that. So we're already empowered. So in a sense, the awakening and the empowerment process are two sides of the same thing. We're actually waking up to our own power, to our own spiritual side, So empowerment is recognizing that we're actually at choice.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to have an understanding of what empowerment is not, because it's easy to make it an ego thing. The empowerment, self-empowerment, what I see is because what we are talking about is self-empowerment is to empower who you really are, to empower the spiritual side of you. And of course, there's a lot of physical, emotional, mental, psychological elements to that. But what I see happening is people start to empower themselves, and they empower their full sense of self. And I think it's an example of that would be, I work with a lot of coaches, you do too. And we were talking to to a coach, and we're talking about her fees, the fees she asked for for her clients. And then she said, yeah, I have this fee that I ask. And because, self-empowerment, I know my value. And I thought, what? Your value? You cannot express your value in money. There's the amount of money you ask for a session, and your self-value, your empowerment, who you are, has absolutely nothing to do with each other. These are two separate things. You offer a service, and the service has a price, but it doesn't have anything to do with you as a person. So to me, that is a false sense of self-empowerment. Maybe another example of empowering. No, maybe this is a good example to start with.
Well, I think it's a good example. I mean, what it triggers in me is you are actually empowered to set your own fees. And so, you're empowered whether you set your fee at a low level or at a high level. That's got nothing to do with the empowerment. The empowerment is
or who you are, or your self-esteem, or the value of you. You know, these are two separate things.
I don't think it has anything to do with your true value, but I think it does have something to do with how you value yourself, which is, there's a subtle difference there, you know, because most of us grow up with a very poor sense of self-esteem, and we're taught, you know, that we're not worth very much. And because of the paradigm that we live in, which is, you know, in the Western world, it's a capitalist paradigm. Everything is, you know, calibrated against money. And so it kind of...
True, but my self-worth has absolutely nothing to do with the fees that I ask for my services.
Sure.
These are two separate things.
Sure.
And if I would express my self-worth in fees, wow, that would be ow.
It can't be done.
Because
yeah.
No. And if it's good, I mean, it would be a difficult negotiations if my identity or my self-worth is at stake in a financial matter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's I believe it's this is one example of how people confuse empowerment, and I think it's true what you say about self-worth. There's a lot of people with very, very low self-esteem, very, very low self-worth, because they depend their self-esteem on the personality, on the mistakes they make, on the failures they have, on the on their behavior, on their thoughts, on their feelings, on how other people are responding to them or thinking about them. But yourself, if your self-esteem depends on your lower ego, you have a problem.
Yeah, well, it's a problem that we all, it's one of those problems that we have to find a way through, isn't it? As you know, as we grow, and it's related to self-acceptance. And you know, once we start to accept ourselves, then we know that our value as human beings, and you know, and as spiritual beings, has nothing to do with the financial system that we exist within in this 3D reality.
No, not even our personality.
No.
Because self-acceptance is about accepting your personality, accepting your behavior, accepting the mistakes you made, accepting your past, accepting your pain, accepting the limited beliefs you have. And you can only accept yourself fully, in my perspective, once you realize who you truly are, and realize the rest is just the vehicle you travel in.
Yeah, and it's you know we've both been down this road of looking at how do we manage our fees, how do we charge fees, and
my dog is looking for the cat. There's something. Yeah. I have a black cat and a white dog here, and they always seem to. They love each other, but they are always chasing each other, and yeah.
Yes, power struggle.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's something else we could talk about. But yeah, we both, not just you and me, but most people doing this kind of work and offering their services have to get into the challenge of what fees to charge and how to charge them the level at which they pitch their business. But the business side, the commercial side, should, when I say should, it doesn't really have any importance to the spiritual world. There is a divide. And I think the easiest thing that I can say about it, you know, one of my learnings was that for a long time, I tried to make this work pay me. I was like trying to make it pay me. Mm-hmm. And I had to shift from that to allowing it to pay me. And there's a big difference. And one is pushing and one is opening to receive. And the opening to receive is about self-acceptance and self-value and all of those, self-esteem, all of that stuff. It's all about, do I allow myself to receive? Am I worth all of the abundance? And it's not just about money. Am I worth all the abundance that is being presented to me by the universe?
Yeah, I'd like to look at that from another point of view. What if it has nothing to do with worth? Of course, you're worth everything. It's much more technical because it's a belief system that says you need to find yourself worthy of receiving.
Yes.
But you're worthy in the first place. So yeah. There is some kind of limited belief or some kind of trauma in the way that's blocking it. But it's not something to identify yourself with, because it has absolutely nothing to do with you. It's something from the past.
Yeah.
Right? And when you dissolve that limiting belief or that trauma or both, you can open yourself to the abundance. But the self-worth needs to be there in the first place. That's my belief, you know, and many people have struggle with that self-worth, self-value, self-love. There's so many people struggling with it, and to my sometimes I feel they're looking in the wrong place. I mean, if you look in the mirror and say, "This is me, and I love myself," it's not. It's your body, and you love your body. That's great. You need to love your body and accept your body. And you're not well, you know this, and most people who watch this will also know this, but you're not your behavior, you're not your thoughts, you're not your feelings. So you're looking in the mirror and you don't see yourself. You look in those black holes there, you can go look into your soul, and that's where you start to connect to the part of you that can be addressed as the highest self. And if you want to identify with anything, I always say identify with your soul. If you need to identify, we all need to identify with something, don't we?
We do in this world, and that's a big problem. It's a big problem for the ego. I call it the ego, but it's a big problem because the world that we live in, I can see a deep hole to dive into here, but we'll see where it goes. Is that nobody really knows who they are. Nobody really knows who you are. We talked about me changing my name yesterday, or when this is watched, it might not be yesterday, but we talked about it, and that my name is not who I am, okay, but it's how I'm identified in all the systems of control that I have to interact with in this kind of regular mainstream world, okay? But it's not who I am. You're not Robert Brookerman. That's not who you are. That's just the name that you have to, or you don't have to use that one. You can use another one. It doesn't, just to interact with the system.
Yes. And it's to make it easier. And just before we started to record, I said, yesterday we talked about awakening. Now we talk about what would be the logical next step. And then you said, what does logic have to do with it?
Yes.
And then I said, well, logic, it's a figure of speech. It's the same with the sun. we say the sun comes up, but it doesn't. We all know that the earth spins, the earth turns. And it's the same with referring to yourself. I mean, I am a spiritual being. I'm the oneness. I am the divine, packed in a temporal, spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical suit. Mm-hmm. And but it's very complicated every time you refer to yourself, to refer to, well, this divine spark, packed in a spiritual, mental, and emotional and physical suit, likes to say it's much more easy. I like to say, it's to make things easy. You refer to yourself as I. It's to make things easy. You have a name. It's to be able to navigate through the world, to navigate the system. You have a body. You need it to be to navigate through this time-space dimension. But it's the identification which makes it all so difficult. And even though we know all this, also you and I, we know all this, but still we identify with certain parts of ourselves.
Sure.
It's human.
Yeah. Well, it's convention, and it's the way our, what I call our mortal mind, the mind that, runs or thinks it runs the show, here. And what happens is all of that stuff kind of takes over because it's the convenience of, just like when we're on the computer, you press the button and it runs loads of subroutines that that if you had to write them all down and get them all done, it would take you a year. So it's kind of much more convenient to do this. But what's underneath it all is like an iceberg, and some of it is not very pretty. And that's where we come into this kind of transformational process that, you and I have shared and that we share with other people, of becoming empowered. And it's like the empowerment, and I'm coming back into that loop. The empowerment,
it's great.
Yeah, empowerment is being aware of all of that, but being aware of it consciously so that you don't just do something based on an unconscious reaction or response. So as soon as you come out of that automatic response and you see that, okay, yes, I'm complying with the convention, I'm doing it out of choice because it suits me to do so today. Tomorrow, it may not. Exactly. Then you're empowered.
Exactly. Yes, then you're empowered. But at the same time, I like you added tomorrow I may not, because it's, you can know all this, and I understand I'm not my past, and I understand I am not my memories. I understand I'm not my painful memories. And today I'm I got it, but tomorrow, maybe my wife says something or my children do something, I'm triggered and I'm in the emotion, or I'm in the personality, part of my personality system that is covering that area, or I'm in the protective mechanism. And suddenly I do identify, and then the suffering starts.
Yes.
Right? I get angry, or I get sad or disappointed, or whatever the program is. And we all have that.
Yes.
Until we get enlightened. And still enlightenment, I feel enlightenment is still part of the ego, because enlightenment is when you it's when you identify yourself with the oneness. It's still identification. Yeah. So but it's so important, and I think it's that human part of it, even though it's from compulsion to choice, it's from compulsory behavior into free will and choice, and that's empowerment. But it's also empowerment, in my perspective, to accept the fact that you're human and accept the fact that every now and then you will slip and get triggered and become the identification you get.
Yeah, I would agree. You know, because it's all part of the wholeness. But again, you know, you are still empowered because you are aware that even if it's with hindsight that you recognize, or you know, you recognize, oh, I've been triggered here, but I can't get out of it at the moment. You are still empowered because you have the wisdom and the knowledge to recognize it.
Yeah. What are your triggers? My dog gets triggered by my cat. I think if he's going to bark again, I'm going to lovingly send him out the door. Right. So what are your triggers? When do you get upset or angry?
No, I haven't got any triggers, Robert. What pisses me off? I don't know. I still have authority issues. I get triggered by authority. I don't. I get angry when. I have to say, there's less and less of my old patterns that trigger me. You really put me on the spot, and it's like they're my blind spots. You see, the problem with triggers is they are my blind spots. You know, so like if I say, "What are your triggers?" You can pick a few things that have pissed you off, but your real triggers, you can't see them until you're triggered. Then you know, and it's like, you know, I would be triggered by oppression, by authority, by you know, systems that ignore people's truth. You know, so I'm not very happy about the British government, the Brexit situation. I'm not very happy about that, and I can easily. Sorry, yeah, well, that's what's happened, yeah, and I can easily get drawn into some kind of outrage about it. You know, and I look at the you know, the political system and the government that we have here in the UK. It's a very strong right-wing government now. I really don't care for that. On another level, I can recognise that all of this is, you know, it happens because it's perfect. It's part of the perfection that needs to play itself out. But I don't like it.
No, but but closer to home, because I know you feel about the Brexit that way, and I get triggered by politics. I get triggered by animal slaughterhouses. I get triggered by you know. But closer to home, your wife Rionak. What button does she have to push to get you triggered?
You have to ask her. Not too much. There isn't too much.
No, but yeah. Maybe I'm asking the wrong person because you're
yeah, old. I think so. You know, I do get triggered. I suppose when she criticizes me, okay, and You know, so it's like if I'm criticized, I get triggered. Okay, you criticized me, you triggered me. Yeah.
I'm trying to trigger you with naming you, calling you an old man.
You know, so that
You
will
know,
be.
but I wonder. You are 30 years on this path, and I'm 10 years on this path. And so in time, you transform more and more. Definitely, if you do it, you know, if you are transforming at the intensity you are, as I know you, I know you for 10 years now, and I know you are working a lot on yourself. You know, we have sometimes. Not only when you're working, also at home, also you found your way. But I wonder what would happen. What would happen? I have 3 little children, 2 years, 5 years, and 7 years old. And I wonder what would happen if you would have them, and you would have to take care of them. Your wife is went to Greece to help in the fugitive camps, like my wife did, and for 2 weeks you have your kids alone. I wonder how many triggers they would be able to ignite in your system.
Well, no doubt they would find them very quickly.
They do.
I find that demands for, you know, what I would call unreasonable demands for attention would trigger me. You know, so like you know, children just screaming for attention.
Yes.
That would trigger me. Mostly, I guess, because I didn't get attention when I was a kid. You know.
Yeah, that was the first thing I was thinking. Yeah. That's why we hate screaming babies, because we weren't allowed to express ourselves in school. Yeah. People would hush us, and
and you know, that's a very common one. But I am much less triggered by that now. You know, so that even, you know, like the thing you know, you get on an aeroplane, and there's a screaming child next in the next seat or behind you, you know, and you just want a little mini hand grenade to throw over the back and stop it, and
we can do an experiment, and you come over here to Terra Nova, and you'll have Uncle Altazar takes care of the children for 1 day, and just to see, and we'll film. We'll put cameras in the house and see what happens.
That doesn't feel in alignment to me, Robert.
By the way, alignment is a good subject for a talk. Alignment.
Yeah,
no, but it's also what I think when I see. Sorry, interrupt you.
Well, all I was going to say is, like, if we're deliberately trying to push buttons, I don't think that's productive. You know, whether it's for you or for me or for anyone that I'm working with.
No,
if the button is pushed, then it's showing itself for us to heal it. But going in there to try and find them and going, well, here's a stick and we're going to poke it in there, that's actually going to re-traumatize.
Yeah, that's true. No, but it's just I'm kidding, and it's just the idea, because I studied with a lot of Buddhist monks, as you know, and I always thought, definitely after I had the children, my children myself, I always thought, okay, that's what you're telling me is wonderful, and your state of consciousness is amazing, but just 1 week.
Yes.
In one house with my boys, you're going to be so out of alignment. It's and it's and I say that respectfully, of course. But it's if you you know, there is a, and we're talking about empowerment, but empowerment is not avoiding triggers.
No.
Right. If you put yourself in a situation where you don't have any triggers, you don't actually empower yourself. You're just avoiding triggers.
Yeah, That's right. You're avoiding, you're spiritually bypassing, you're in denial. You know, the thing about triggers is they are your guides, they are your gifts. They're the signposts pointing you at what you need to pay attention to transform and grow into yourself.
And they point, you know, when you point, three fingers point right back at you. It's the old, everyone knows that one. I had this beautiful story that I heard about this Buddhist monk, and he wants to meditate on his own. And so he looks for a place to meditate, goes out of his monastery to find a place, but there's people everywhere and there's noise. And so he takes a boat. He takes the boat all the way to the center of the lake. He sits down and he meditates, and it's nice and quiet, and he meditates for a couple of hours. And suddenly he feels a boat bumping into his boat, and again, bump, and again, bump. And he feels the anger coming up, and he wants to, you know, say to the boatsman of the other boat, he wants to say, "What are you doing?" He opens his eyes and sees the boat is empty. Now he realizes the anger is not outside of him. It's not the phenomena on the outside that is triggering him. He realized the anger is inside of him. No matter what, you know, no matter what, it can be triggered. And since that's the moral of the story. Since that moment, that monk, whenever somebody is angry at him or makes him angry, he realizes it's in me. Anger is in me. It has nothing to do with that person. It has nothing to do with that situation. It has nothing to do with that. It's in me. I love that story.
Yeah, but I'm thinking, well, who's the bastard that left the boat untied so that it drifted off and bumped into him? You know?
Totally irresponsible person. You know, I have this card on my desk, and I like to remind me. Oh, it's mirrored.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
It says I'm only human after all, and because it's you know, it's we get triggered, and it's human, and we react, and as we do our practice, we recover faster. You know, the resilience increases, and and we realize, you know, the realization, hey, this is trigger comes faster, and we can manage ourselves better in that perspective. But I think a part of self-empowerment is to accept the fact you're human, you get triggered. You're human, you get pissed off every now and then. You're human, because that's, you get afraid, because that's being, what being a human is all about.
Yeah, but I think
having life.
You know, you hit on, you know, you're right on it there. You're right on the money, if you like, is that it's being empowered and being triggered. They are part and parcel of the same thing. But when you're empowered, and or when you are, as you are becoming more empowered, let's put it that way, then you recognize that the triggers are not something that's, you know, that you've got to pretend aren't there, that you've got to, you know, they're not something bad about you. They are telling you where you need to go. So they are your friends.
Yeah. Yeah. It's basically, I like to put it in this way. Your anger tells you where and how do you say that? I know this in Dutch, but in English, your anger is where your boundary is, you know, where your next step in development is. It's not a bad thing. It's just, it shows you that's where you are now, and that's where you need to go. And beyond the anger is the next step.
Yeah, it's a learning edge. It's a learning edge. And, you know, for me, I won't speak for you, but certainly for me, if I'm not at that learning edge, then I can't facilitate other people at that edge. I can't, you know, because that's where the transformation is. The transformation is at the edge. It's not blissing out and, you know, having this wonderful meditation with the light and totally distracting. It's about being at that edge and going beyond it. That's the transformation.
Yeah, people are pain avoiding animals in a way, part of us, pain avoiding animals. So we want to get away from that pain. And the spiritual bypass, we talked about it, you know, and get into that light, but we need to go down into that belly area and go through the pain, go towards the pain. And I remember when we did a 3-day retreat together, and I did or said something, was a couple of years ago, that totally pissed you off. Remember that? And we got, and that pissed me off. And we got.
I can't believe it. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I know I know, but it's true. And we got into this being pissed off at each other thing, and then it was during the break, and we went back into the circle, and we sat with, it was a group of 30 people, I think, and we sat there and we shared with them.
Oh yes.
What was going on between them.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yes.
And because that helped the whole group to go in, because we showed our vulnerability and our humanness, and they were all able to show their vulnerability. And I think that's why we're getting too many times teachers are covering their vulnerability, and spiritual people want to look good and wise, and but if you are wise, you don't have to act wise.
No, and it's this sense of, you know, I've got to be perfect to be a teacher or to share healing or whatever. That's just another aspect of being disempowered, because it's not, you know, it's non-acceptance of yourself, you know. So if you're not accepting yourself, and that's the energy that you're holding, that's what you're actually going to share with whoever you're working with.
Yeah, and that goes for teachers, but basically it goes for anyone. You know, being vulnerable can be very painful. Being really open and honest, people can hurt you, people can use it against you.
Sure.
But it's what empowerment is all about. You know, being open and being honest about your mistakes. When you fuck something up, just say, I'm sorry, I messed up.
Exactly. Yeah. And you clean it up.
Yeah, you clean it up. For example, somebody, and I think I really appreciate this. Appreciate you for this, because you're very, very able when somebody when you do something, and how do I say this? When you do something and somebody gets a reaction to that, gets hurt or triggered and pulls it back at you, you don't defend, but you say, oh, okay, I'm sorry. If let's say you mess something up, you say, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have done that. Well, my bad. You know, I was out of line there. It came from that. And I really appreciate that. And I'm an advocate for that as well, because that's how it works to me. That's when you are truly self-empowered and you don't hold up something you're not. You're just being honest. You're being open. And it brings us to another very, very interesting topic, and that's integrity. You know, it's your integrity there.
I wanted to say, I think, you know, that what you're saying there, that's all about integrity, you know, just owning when we fucked up, because we all do. And, you know, trying to pretend that you don't is really very stupid, because people know. You know,
yeah, people know. But sometimes it can hurt really, really, really hard. You know, if you forgot your wife's birthday and she said, you forgot my birthday and now I'm really, really sad. I mean, it can hurt, you know, just for your own stupidity and forgetting, and you know, it can be so hurtful. And before you know it, you say, why didn't you tell me it was your birthday? Something like, you should have told me. How should I know? You know. And
Okay.
well, it's an example, and I think the way to go is say, oh my God, I'm so sorry I forgot your birthday.
Yeah.
I completely missed it. I was
Yeah.
occupied with myself, and yeah, sorry.
Yeah. And I just want to rewind a little bit because there's something I wanted to say about, you know, that whole thing of pretending to be perfect. You know, there are so many people, good people, who have this idea that they've got to be perfect to teach, to heal, to, you know, to share their wisdom with others, you know. And what they say is, I'm not there yet. Well, you know, I made a little Facebook meme a month or two ago. There is no there, you know, there just isn't. there is no there. And, you know, what you have to do is you have to recognize that you're a work in progress and you're at your learning edge. And so you're sharing and you're facilitating at that point, at the point where you are right on your own edge. It's true for me every year that I do the mystery school, you know, I'm stretched into it again. And it's okay not to be perfect. It's okay. But there's a big problem because so many people that were really good people, you know, you've trained some and I've trained some and they've come from other places, they think they can't do it because they are not there. And that is actually, I'm going to say, that's a dark force program. It's a dark force sabotage program that stops really brilliant people from stepping into their power, you know, by accepting themselves, accepting that they might fuck up, and being able to grow through it and still serve the overall empowerment and awakening in human consciousness.
Yeah, that's I like what you're saying, and the thought comes up: what if we really understood all those teachers? What if they really understood their mission? And what if we would all be able to put the higher goal that we have, the higher, no, goal is not the right word, but the higher, what's a good English word for it? Higher.
I don't know, it's perspective, higher vibration. It's, you know, it's...
No, I mean a higher goal. Let's use it a higher goal. You know, our mission together, the mission we have in the facilitation of mankind going from fear into love. And what if that higher purpose, thank you, purpose, that higher purpose we all have, what if we would all be able to forget about our own shit, you know, and forget about I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not talented enough, I'm not skilled enough, I don't have enough experience, I don't have enough years, I don't have, forget all that bullshit and focus on the higher purpose and just go for it and understand that as we go, we learn.
Well, and that's the, you know, that kind of also links back to what we were talking about in our first conversation of this series, that we focus on that purpose, you know, but that purpose is actually open. It's not defined. We don't know what it is, because as we focus and we continue to evolve, the purpose expands.
Yes.
You know, and you know, and so we don't know what our potential is, and it's just as well, because if we did, we would put that limit on it.
Yes, but and at the same time, okay, there's a nuance there. But let's say that limitless purpose. Mm-hmm. You know, no matter where you start, what if you were able to put the collective interest, let me put it, yeah, that's maybe a better way of saying it. What if we were, all of us light workers, were able to put the collective interest above our own interest? And what if we would drop all that fear and all those dark pros and just accept them, accept that as fear, accept as dark forces sabotaging and manipulating them. That's okay. Doesn't take me off of my higher purpose. Okay, there's a childhood school problem that makes me not being able to talk in groups. Okay, fine, but I have this higher purpose and I will serve that purpose. You know, I will serve the collective. It's just my stuff. And what I see now is people getting held back because of their own stuff. Yeah. So they are afraid of, you know, there is maybe chaos in their mind or despair, or they feel overwhelmed, or because of their own stuff. And they're all looking inwards, which is great, which we should do, and in order to serve the collective for the good of all. Right? Mm-hmm. We're doing this for the good of all. And if we would truly all do this for the good of all, and we could, it would be easier for us to release the identification on those the things that are holding inside of ourselves, that are holding us back. And that would make it easier for us to free ourselves from those, you know, those breaks, and go for it.
Yes, but.
Yeah, I feel but. I thought it was a but.
Okay. Okay. Now, there is an old principle of self-sacrifice. You know, it's the martyr syndrome. And it's like, if I really ignore my own needs and you know, and diminish myself in service to the whole, then I'm a good person. And that's bullshit. Okay.
I'm not saying that.
No, I know you're not saying it, but I want to bring out the point. You know, I know that.
I do agree. This is a pitfall in this. In what
and so I just wanted to say this. And the thing about serving the collective is, if I'm in alignment, and I talk about me, if I'm in alignment, then what's right for me is right for the collective. It serves both. It's not this or that. It's this and that. Yeah. So that's the whole purpose of being in alignment, and, you know, striving for that, but also, you know, trusting myself, accepting myself. You know, the more I accept myself, the more I can be in alignment. And then,
yeah, and there's a pitfall there too, mm-hmm. as well. Because if you both are ways to both reach the same destination, right? If you go for the greater good, serve the collective, there's this risk of diminishing yourself in order to serve that greater good. Mm-hmm. But if you do it in the right way, you are able to serve in the greater good will heal you, because you're part of the greater good. And the other way around, if you align yourself, if you're able to really align yourself, you serve the greater good because you're part of the greater good.
Exactly.
But there's the ego that plays little games with us in that alignment and says, I do this because I'm aligned, but in reality, there's a program underneath that says, I do this because I like to have that, or I like to eat that, or I like to do that.
Yeah, well, again,
both have plus and you know, both have positive and negative.
It's the same thing. It makes me feel good, and my ego likes that because it thinks, oh yeah, I'm a good person. It's, you know, it's feeding the same process. And you know, we've had discussions about this particular thing. You know, I don't like to be called a healer or a teacher, particularly, although I'm seen as such. Because I'm aware that my ego would love it, you know, it would just, and it would eat it up and go, oh great, this is what I am. and what I understand is that through my alignment, such as it is, and it's, you know, we've got to be really clear about this. It's not something that's there all the time. It's there, you know, in different degrees at different times. And through my alignment, then a certain grace actually manifests through that and is shared collectively. But it's not there all the time.
No.
And it,
I agree.
you know, and it's there through my intent and through my intent to surrender, to allow it to happen. You know, but if I get into that sense of, oh yes, I'm doing this, and I'm, yeah, of course, I've got to know that I'm doing something worthwhile.
Our mutual friend Charlotte Corbet, who brought us together 10
Oh
years ago,
yes.
she always said that the ego is like the mouse on the back of the elephant, saying, "Oh, are we fuck in English? What stamping? What's it called in English when an elephant puts down his feet very there goes my story. What's the name of that? That's a stomping.
Yeah, are we stomping? Are we stamping? That's okay. Yeah, I get that.
Stamping.
Yeah.
Always stamping. So the ego is like the mouse on the back on the elephant, saying, "Oh, look how great we are stamping."
Yes.
I don't know if that's correct English, but and that's what it is. It's for myself, the whole teacher ego thing. I posted a something about teachers a while ago, and there was a lady, Kadisha. We all both know she was in our retreat last year, in the Shift Your Reality retreat. And she said, "Why do you use the word teacher?" You know, and I said, "Well, why not? It depends on how you look at it, because I see spiritual teacher nothing less or more than school teacher."
Mm-hmm.
You know, or a martial art teacher, or I don't know, carpenting teacher. You know, it's just the weight that we lay on the word makes it something our ego can play with, yes or no. Because if I'm a school teacher, I'm a school teacher, you know, and it's the same with spiritual teacher. It's fine. It's not a big thing. It's not a high status thingy. No, it's just a job.
It's a way of describing what you do, what we do. I get that. But you know, back to our friend Charlotte, who brought us together. You know, Charlotte, she when I first started to work in the Netherlands, which was quite a long time ago now. She invited me to come, and she was involved in education. And what was really interesting to me, and I took a great deal from this, a great deal of learning, if you like, that, you know, she looked at the word education as coming from a Latin root, I think a Latin root of educare, which means to draw out. So education is not putting in, it's actually drawing out what's in it. So it's actually allowing what's inside to come out. So, you know, and in our conventions, you know, teaching is about showing you how to do something. It's about, you know, teaching you, you know, 1 + 1 = 2, rather than, you know, allowing whatever needs to come through you to materialize. So, you know, that's where we get the problem. And the sense is that the teacher is supposed to know everything or everything about that particular subject. And, you know, and certainly as a spiritual teacher, okay, I might know a little bit, but I don't know very much, you know.
No, but these are limiting beliefs that I hear now, because the teacher doesn't have to know. A school teacher, no history teacher is required to know everything about history. And if gets a question, doesn't know the answer, he says, I can look it up. Same for a spiritual teacher. And you're talking about styles of education. A teacher can be pulling it out or putting it in. And it's the same. So you have good teachers and bad teachers. But it's still a teacher. So it's still a school teacher. It doesn't add anything to that word. So a spiritual teacher, same. You have some who lay it up, who push it in, others who pull it out. You have good and bad, and you don't have to know everything. That's what I teach my students. You don't have to know anything. If you don't know it, please don't make it up. Look it up, or call someone, or close your eyes and feel what comes true. But don't start babbling because you want to give an answer, and you feel stupid if you don't know the answer, because spiritual teachers need to know everything. We don't. It's bullshit. We're human.
I'm smiling because I'm remembering now that one or two of the best spiritual teachers I've ever had have taught me how not to do something by doing what they were doing. Because I would go, I need never to do this the way they're doing it.
I have that a lot with you.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Yeah.
That's how you teach 50% of everything. No, but it is a part of being, I think it's a big part of being a teacher is how you live and how you make mistakes. And that's what your students are looking at too, how you fuck up. And if you fuck up and deal with it in a very, very, very poor way, you give them a very, very, very good lesson. And and that's the difficulty also. I had a friend, I have a friend, one of my best friends, and he's did our transformational coach training with us, and he did his first group, and yesterday he apped me and he said, "Wow, I love this. This is absolutely fantastic. But now I understand what you're going through." He said, "They all think I have the perfect life. All those students, I had to convince them I don't. And they all believe I knew everything. I had to convince them I don't. And they all project their shit on me, And I said, yeah, that's what it's like, People project. If you teach people project your shit on you. They want you to be perfect. They will get disappointed when you're not perfect, and so on, and so on, and so on. It's that's why you don't want to call yourself a teacher.
Yeah, that's right. And and come back again. I'm just going to bring us back to where we started. That's empowerment, because it's about taking responsibility, and what we're doing. Those people that want us to be the teacher and the savior, they're the people that do not want to take responsibility for their own issues, their own lives. And that's the whole empowerment process. You've got to take responsibility, and you've got to accept that you fuck up, and you've got to accept yourself. In English, we say warts and all. Warts and all the little imperfections we have to accept.
Yeah, true. And don't put your power in the hands of another person, not a teacher, not a colleague, not a boss, not anyone. And I like spiritual vampirism. Maybe we should talk about that a bit as well. All those teachers and clairvoyant people who say, "Hey, I see a problem in you. Wait, let me fix it for you. Oh, it's gone now. That's fantastic. You're healed." And you call that spiritual vampirism, right?
I do, yes. And basically it's anything of that nature that is offered when you haven't asked for it is a violation.
I agree.
It's like, it's none of my business what your issues are, except when we're in a space and we've both given intent and consent to work together. Yeah.
Yes.
Then we can share, and you know, we can have a discussion. I would say, oh, okay, what's going on here? Or, you know, you might do it to me. What's going on here? Then it's different. We've given each other permission. But if I come along and say, just like you've done, and say, oh, I can see that shadow on your shoulder, then well, it's not looking very nice. I can help you with that. Would you like me to? As soon as you say yes, you've allowed me to invade your system.
Yes. Yes. And people, I think, most people are not aware of that.
You know, but if I come to you and say,
giving away their power.
Yeah, if I come to you and say, oh, there's something going on in my shoulder. Can you see what it is? And you go, well, maybe let's see how we can look at this. And oh yeah, I can see this. Maybe we can deal with it in this way. Then we're cooperating, and it's not an invasion.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And it's very important. But it's not only with spiritual teachers; it's also with your boss or your neighbor or your friend. You know, as soon as you as people start to solve your problems without you asking them,
yes,
you're letting them, you're actually giving away your power to them.
That's right. And you know, the other thing I'd say is any uninvited advice is actually criticism masquerading as compassion. You know, it's like saying, "Oh, I'm helping you out here because, you know, I can see this is wrong with you." You know, when what you're really saying is, "This is really pissing me off because it's showing me something about myself that I don't want to look at."
Yeah, projecting it back on you.
Yes. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
So.
Good. I think that
it feels like we've done it for now.
Yeah, it feels like we're finished with this part, and well, we'll have our third talk soon enough, and I think it's good if we talked about alignment in the third one. Alignment.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Yeah,
we just
about alignment.
Yeah, we'll tell everyone we're going to talk about alignment, and then we'll talk about something else. We're really pissing off.
Let's do so. All right, so we talked about empowerment now. We said, basically what we said is you are a spiritual being having a human experience, so act like a human, be open, be vulnerable. Don't give your power away to others, not even if it's packed in good advice. Don't give your power away. Stay with yourself. Stay true to yourself. Don't identify too much with your spiritual, emotional, and mental body. And if you do, forgive yourself and just enjoy life. And no matter, you know, if you take the way of aligning yourself to serve the greater good, or serve the greater good to align yourself, both are good ways, and both ways have their pitfalls. I think we covered a lot in this talk.
But there's one little paradox I want to introduce here. Even if you give your power away, if you do that by conscious choice, you are empowered. So it's like if someone's coming at you, and you're going, I can feel this is all bullshit, but I'm just going to explore it. So I'm going to go along with it. If you make that choice consciously, you are empowered.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, thank you for watching. And thank you, Aldazar, for this great talk.
Yeah, thank you, Robert.